Hello everyone, Northwest Saws here, and I've got a real interesting McCulloch chainsaw for you today. This is a 1959 170 chainsaw, I believe about 87 cc's. This is a direct drive, not a gear drive. And this one was found in an attic where it has been stored for years. It's in relatively good shape. I got some paint missing from the starter housing here, as you can see. Fairly dirty, and it's got some fir needles kind of stuffed into about every nook and cranny on this thing. A little dirty up front, but from what I could tell, there's no significant damage here on the saw. There's not really any dents or dings on the handlebar even. Good full wrap handlebar. Took a little rag to the top of this to get some of the grime off of here, and the paint on the top is actually still in fairly good shape. Really good. Actually, considering this is over 50 years old, this is original paint on this. The starter is also functional. I didn't give it too many pulls. I haven't been able to take the muffler off quite yet to determine what condition the piston is in, but we'll do that here shortly. And we're also going to try to give this a good cleaning. I don't want to take it through a power washer yet. I think what I'm going to do is just take some hot water and a little bit of soap, Dawn dish soap, and try to clean it up that way first before I have to resort to anything else. It doesn't look like it's really going to need much, honestly. It's dirty, but not terrible. We'll take an air hose to it as well, get some of those fir needles out of there. It also has a vintage Oregon roller nose bar, and about 25 inches on there with vintage Oregon chain too. That's full skip sequence, full chisel as well, and it doesn't even have a single sharpening on there. Boy, I can get that thing to focus. Good grief. There we go, that's a little better. Yeah, not a single sharpen on that yet. There's a fair amount of surface rust here on this side of the bar, but pretty confident that'll come out. I'll take a Scotch-Brite pad or steel wool and get that off there. This side isn't too terribly bad. But this is not too bad for having sat for years. I'm going to clean this up and then take the filter cover off and see what we got going on here. There's a possibility that this could still be a runner. Okay, so we got her all cleaned up now and took her out back. Got some dish soap and some hot water and also took the hose to it, and that's really all that was needed. And it turned out pretty well. Most of, and pretty much all the gunk that was on this thing got cleaned off. Dogs are in really good shape. There's a couple small dents on the bottom of the handlebar that I couldn't see before. A little bit of gunk covering them up, but they're pretty minuscule. Bottom cleaned up well. And there are no cracks on the bottom either. I'm actually kind of surprised to see this piece completely intact. That turned out pretty well. There's still a little bit of gunk that I could probably get off the flywheel there, but for the most part, it's pretty clean. And the next part, I took the muffler off. See if you can get a shot of the piston. And it may be a little bit hard to see that. There we go. That's a little bit better. There's a little bit of varnish from what I could see there, but otherwise it's pretty clean. Turns over freely. There's not even that much carbon buildup in there. A little bit of gunk around. We'll have to do a little bit better job of cleaning some of that stuff up, but otherwise not too bad. The rest of this cleaned up really well. And the paint on this is, well, for being built in 1959, pretty good. So, next thing we gotta do is put the muffler back on, which the muffler cleaned up really, really nicely as well. Looks great. Here's the starter and clutch cover, which this has no issues at all. It pulls freely. No damage. Yeah. Super surprised on that. That was one of the first things I figured would be wrong. That recoil spring would be absolutely shot. Here's the fan housing here, or cover. Pretty clean, but decent amount of paint loss on this. Compared to the rest of the saw, it almost looks like somebody may have tried to repaint the fan housing at some point. That, or it's, you know, it's possible that this could have been facing a window in direct sunlight versus the rest of the saw. It might have been protected. So, we'll get this stuff hooked back up, and after we do that, we're gonna get into the tank, take this cover off, see what we need to do there, and as well as probably better take this cover off right here and check out the points. On these old saws, the 55s, the 44s, 47s, the older ones, they got these externally mounted points. Not exactly the best design, but these went bad quite often. So we better take that off and check them out. Okay, so here is where we are at. Upon further investigation, I did find a cut at the base, very minuscule, but it's there at the base of this fuel line. And trying to feed gas down into this thing. You might be able to see that right there. Gas is leaking between the gaskets at the bottom of the carburetor. So that could just be a couple loose screws, but in all actuality, we're probably going to need to get a kit for this. Probably wouldn't hurt anyways. Replace this gasket. Maybe check the one at the bottom of this adapter here. Get this all cleaned up. Get the gas tank cleaned out. And then I think we'll be in business. Because I did get this to fire. It just cannot sustain because of this current situation. So I'll set this camera down here in a second. I'll show you. And fire it up. Before I do, I'll show you how the bar turned out. Turned out pretty good. There's not really any pitting. This was the best side. In fact, you could see there's the old logo right there. Not really any pitting. There's some minor pitting on the other side here. This was the worst side. But most of it was just surface rust. We still got a little bit to try and get off right there, but hopefully the remainder of this rust should come off when we do a few cuts. I let the chain soak in gas last night and then took a wire brush to it, and that did the trick. I just put this thing on loose, ran it a little bit, and it cleaned those drivers off perfectly. And now it's just kind of a mess because it's getting all of that crap out of there. All the stuff that was on the drivers, all the crap that was in the groove of the bar. So it's just going to be a little messy, but a few cuts should take care of all that. Anyway, I'll set this camera down. Fire it up for just a couple seconds. I've already got it primed. Try priming it again. And that's that. So, I'm going to take that carburetor out of there, replace that fuel line, do some cleaning to the fuel tank, and see if we need to get a kit. We probably will. 95% sure we're probably going to get a kit for this. Unless I discover there's like 4 screws or something like that missing, and the diaphragms in here are just perfect. We're probably going to replace this. Get a kit. So, stay tuned. We'll see what we can do here. And make a second video, hopefully, and put it to some wood.